Good morning. If you want to grab your coffee and come take a seat, we will get started. Welcome to 1 Million Cups Kansas City. My name is Courtney. I'm one of your community organizers, along with Tyler, Kyle, Luke, and then John is on the back on video. So we would love to welcome you here today. 1 Million Cups is a weekly entrepreneurial program where we have two companies get up and present for 6 minutes, and then we open it up to our expert panel and then the audience for Q&A. So if at any time you have a question for the presenter, please raise your hand and we will come around with a mic. So our expert panel, I will have them introduce themselves this morning.
Hi, I'm Steve Stava with Twisted Pair Labs. We're a consultancy that builds measurable mobile and web applications.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aditya Valetti. I'm Director of Community and Partnerships for the Lean Lab. We're a startup incubator here in Kansas City, specifically for education ventures.
Thank you to both of you for being here. Also, if you haven't already, please take out your phone and check into the 1 Million Cups app. You can give live feedback to the presenters as well as us organizers, so please let us know if you have any questions. Also, there's instructions on the PowerPoint over here to download the app. So for our first presenter, Health Studio KC is going to show us why a studio is the opposite of a clinic and how they are disrupting the primary direct care model. Please welcome Damon Haybrock with Health Studio KC.
All right, good morning. Greetings, great to see so many friendly faces this morning. Fair warning, I am a physician, and I've never met a run-on sentence I didn't like. So a 6-minute sales pitch is gonna be a little tough for me. But I'm gonna start with things that I am good at. First, I'm gonna work on asking you a few questions, and I'm gonna get you moving. So I'd like everybody to go ahead and stand up for me real quick. And while you're standing up, I want you to think about the first question, which is, what is the first word, emotion, or sound that comes to mind when you think about having to go to the doctor? Second question, if you've ever ignored a medical concern or question because of the cost, the hassle, or the lack of access in seeing your doctor, please go ahead and sit down. The persistent cough, the nagging shoulder pain, perhaps an evening Google MDing. Next question. I got a few standing. How many of you would have difficulty getting in to see your doctor if it was an urgent matter today? If so, go ahead and sit down. Last question. How many of you here can text your doctor when you have a question or a concern? If so, please remain standing. Okay. So 1 Million Cups is about identifying a problem. We know the problem. Healthcare is broken. You can see here on a national level that we're struggling, but also locally. The average wait time to get in to see your physician, if you have great insurance and you're established with a doctor, is 2 weeks. If you have great insurance and you're not established with a doctor, it's 2 months. This is here in Kansas City. And that's all for, on average, a 2-hour visit with a doctor. Most of the time is drive time, waiting room, and getting shuffled around the clinic, for all less than 10 minutes spent with your doctor. So as Daniel Tiger says,
if there's a problem, talk about it, make a plan.
So that's why we're here today. Let me introduce myself. I'm Damon Haybrock. I'm a family physician, and I'm the founder of Health Studio KC. I went into medicine, like most physicians, because I want to help people. I really believe that the conversation that you can have with your physician is a sacred one. There are few places that you can go and talk with someone else and they have your best interest in heart with no agenda, whether you want it or not. Health Studio KC is a return to that belief. So who is Health Studio KC? Well, simply, it's in the name, health. That's the goal. Studio. A studio is a place to do work, like artists and architects. It's a place to create. It's a place to build foundations. KC, we're located in the Woodside Village at 47th between Rainbow and State Line, right in the heart of the Kansas City Metro. I wanted to be a small-town doc here in the city. Now, how does Health Studio KC work? It's a direct primary care office. What does that mean? Simply direct, no middleman, no insurance, just you and your doctor. Primary care, what is that, or what do we do? Small list. So the way it works is for $60 a month for an individual, all your visits, texts, calls, emails are covered. Just think about that for a moment. Access to your doctor when you need. Same-day visits, be seen today, or call and I'll answer. I get hung up on all the time. Nobody knows what to do when the doctor answers the phone. As if that's not enough, we also have a small pharmacy on site, and we have a good example is a 5-day Z-Pack. At your local pharmacy is going to run $20, $25. In my office, it's $1.60. Singular, we're in the height of allergy season. That runs about $2.80 in my office. We also have labs. They're at a 60 or 80% discount. A typical wellness panel in your insurance is $160 to $180. In my office, it's $16. We also have negotiated cash-based prices on radiology if needed. So while I'm happy to see you when you're still ill or injured, what I really want to do is have conversations with you about wellness and your health goals. I believe that your body has a design, a tension and a balance and a rhythm in which you operate most optimally. I love the Charles Eames quote, "The details are not the details, they make the design." The building blocks of what we need from a health standpoint are simple: how we eat, how we sleep, how we hydrate, how we rest, how we move, how we dream, how we create. But the details are different for each one of us. What we want to do is partner with you to build a relationship and enable you to live into your design. When is the last time you had that conversation with your physician? We do this for individuals, for couples, for families, and for businesses. On the business side, we can save you 20 to 40% on your total healthcare spend, while offering you what you really want to give your employees, which is access to their doctor. Forbes calls it the triple aim: less expense, better experience, better outcomes. Sound too good to be true? There is a better way. So join the resistance and let me be the Yoda for your health. Because at the end of the day, this is about you. The choices that you make for your health today are going to influence how you feel tomorrow, how you feel in a year, 5 years, 10, 20 years from now. So choose health. All right, you've just spent now as much time with me as you did with your physician at your last appointment. The doctor's in. Let me answer your questions.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and kick off with a question or two.
Yes.
Great conversation. I love that. I actually have a dental membership.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been curious if there'd be medical versions of that, healthcare versions. So it's great to hear that that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So my curiosity is sustainability financially of the structure that you have. We're also used to insurance and healthcare being what it is. What holds it up financially? Where's the money come from, and how is it something that can grow?
Absolutely. On the physician and medical side, just to be specific?
Yeah, physician and medical.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I mean, the typical family physician in the community is making 20 cents on the dollar. And in this model of care, that changes, and we suddenly make about, on average, 88 cents on the dollar. So what that allows is it completely shifts the way in which we're doing business. We don't have all the overhead, and that's where the membership model, the average membership model for these across the country runs between $50 and $60. A practice of 600 members with just 30% overhead leads to living a much better life than most physicians are living in a hospital-paid system.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I attempted to do some of my research. Is this related to Atlas MD out of Wichita on their platform?
Absolutely. Atlas was one of the forerunners in this. I utilized their electronic medical record, and they've been around for about 7-8 years, so they're amazing. You bet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So my question is more about where do you see yourself fitting in with other options for medical care that are already there? So it's not unusual for me to just go to an urgent care when I can't really get to my doctor. So how are you sort of changing people's behaviors to use
You
this
bet.
instead?
So, I mean, the long-term goal is to move us away from the most expensive care that we can give. That's why the way America is in terms of sick care. And so I want to move us to the health care, where you see the doctor to stay healthy, to be healthy. I work on urgent cares on the weekends right now to cover the expenses, and 90% of the people that I see in urgent care have no business being there. Would they be able to get in to see their primary care physician? Then it'd be a much better deal. I just had a new member sign up this week, and she has utilized urgent cares probably for the last 10 years for her care. And what she does is each fall she goes in, and she finally gets bronchitis. And she gets treated for bronchitis, and then it takes her about 3 to 4 weeks to recover. And so she came in to see me. She had started in October with symptoms, worse to December. Finally went and saw an urgent care in March after putting up with this for that period of time, chronic cough and all that. And then antibiotic, week later, no better. New urgent care. Antibiotic, week later, no better. Called the urgent care. They said, go to the ER. She went to the ER where they did a normal chest x-ray and said, nah, we'll throw you on another antibiotic. And here's a steroid and an inhaler. Finally, she came to see me. She'd heard about me. And we sat down. Turns out she has asthma, triggered by allergies, that eventually does trigger bronchitis. Currently, she didn't have any of those things but asthma. And she was just being inappropriately treated. When you're in an urgent care setting, you're dealing with a very small sliver of somebody's health, what you have right in front of you. And it's just suboptimal care. So the more that we can get people to understand, you're going to see, how much money did she spend? 2 urgent care visits, ER visit, to come out on the other side. So $60 a month. She's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Then I gave her her steroid shot, $12. So that's what she paid for that day.
The audience has questions. If not, I'll keep rolling.
Question here in the center.
Yeah.
If you have a question, just raise your hand. We'll make our way to you.
Thanks. So there are other doctors that have similar models. Is your plan to scale this nationally and just work the bugs out at your practice? And if so, how do you plan on scaling this?
Great question. Yeah, so direct primary care has been around for a little more than a decade, started on the coasts. Here locally, there's about 7 or 8 clinics within probably 150 miles of Kansas City that exist. We all meet quarterly and we're supporting each other. Now, my personal goal is to grow my practice as that approaches what I feel like is my cap number, then to be able to bring physicians on. I have 3 physicians right now that are itching to start, but they don't want any part of the business. So I would be happy to grow my practice and do it in that way. I only need 1,200 patients and I'll probably cap. So you talk about, I'm right next to Woodside Health Club. They have 6,000 members. So there's plenty of members and plenty of people that need help. And so I'll scale that way. On a national level, the American Academy of Family Physicians, headquartered here in Leawood, they are hugely behind this. So they've really been supportive of it and are trying to help grow it because we aren't getting any physicians to go into primary care medicine. It's a miserable life. The ones that are there are leaving. This is an alternative that is shaking people at their core, particularly in medicine, saying yes, yes, and yes, please.
Back here on your right.
Yeah.
My question pertains to services that maybe you do not offer, and if you refer, what happens to the cost structure there? So if you have to send somebody out for x-rays or whatever, what happens with that side of the model?
Absolutely. So if it's something outside, I'll do my best to call around and negotiate the best option. So I have 80% of my people have insurance, 20% don't. Gal who didn't need it or screening mammogram. We called 3 locations, found out by far who had the best price. That's where she went. So we already have some pre-negotiated prices. As a group that we meet, we're talking to different specialist groups. But you have, I encourage you to have some sort of insurance. You get hit by a bus, I'm not a lot of help. So trying to figure out, how do you cover that piece? But outside of that, I have more time to kind of give the white glove service where we're calling around and figuring out for you where is the best location and trying to give you as much transparency on the cost as possible.
Question back here, right here.
Hi, nice presentation. I love this model. It's not unique, but it's rare, and I hope it expands quite a bit. So my question is around, is there any partnerships that are happening nationwide? And the reason I'm asking this is if I'm out of town
Yeah.
and something happens, it's not necessarily catastrophic, because that obviously is not exactly what you're doing, but
Yeah.
is there options or is there thoughts about having some sort of network where I could still have somewhat reasonable pricing versus having to carry, more expensive insurance?
Absolutely. That's been a part of the conversation that has started up. We have annual meetings. It's been in Kansas City the last 3 years. It's in DC this year. But that's been a piece of the conversation. Right now, for instance, just from a care standpoint, we've had people that were on a plan in Wichita with Atlas, worked in Wichita, and now are working satellite in Kansas City, and I'm their doctor. So figuring out how do we transfer care, how do we support one another in that way? Or if somebody's on the road, if it's something I can't handle via a phone call, I have a lot of folks that travel, and rather than getting to an urgent care, I'm trying to get them to the right place. Absolutely. Great question.
Right here in the middle.
Yep. Is this a total disruptor to insurance companies, or is this in addition to your $700 a month premium?
Yeah, this is completely absent of insurance. I encourage you to use your health insurance like we do for all other insurance, which is risk management. We've been sold this bill of goods that the only way that we process our health care is through insurance. So to go ahead and say, figure out what your total out-of-pocket you feel comfortable with from a coverage standpoint, just like you would for car insurance, homeowners insurance, and everything. And then for the vast majority of your health, see me. Absolutely.
Another question here in your center.
Yeah.
All right. I have a, first off, I like your program a lot better than the insurance, so that's mad props for you doing that. One of my good friends actually has an office, does the exact same thing you do, Kansas City Direct Primary Care, actually,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact. One of my good friends does that, and I'm like, now I have two options. Who should I go with and why? But that's not the real question. Let's just say, what would happen with my medicine? What would happen if I need to get an x-ray on something? What would happen if I need blood work?
Sure.
What would happen in that regards? Because the people at Kansas City Direct Primary Care would have that covered in the membership. What about for you guys?
Gotcha.
What would my $60 a month membership be with you guys compared to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the beauty of the model is total flexibility. So within the market, we all have different ways that we're going to do it. And a lot of that's sitting down and talking through it. I mean, I've got a small pharmacy on site and access to meds at a very, very inexpensive amount. And same thing with labs. And so to me, being able to sit down with my member, my patient, and have the conversation, hey, we're thinking about doing this today. I'll tell you right now what it's going to cost, and we'll decide. No super bill 6 weeks later where you go, what? What is that? What am I paying here? What's this fee? All of it's up front. So that's how we do it.
Another question right here.
Yeah.
This feels like a program that could be used to help supplement traditional healthcare insurance. Can your membership fees be covered by health savings account funds?
Oh, great question. Thank you. So currently, Liberty Health is the only health savings. Well, let me say two things. I thought Health Share. There are health share accounts out there that operate basically as insurance coverage. Liberty Health is one of them, and they reimburse the model. Health savings accounts get tricky in the sense that the government has said yes. The IRS has said it's a gray area, we don't know. People have been using HSA accounts for more than a decade to pay the membership fees. No one's ever been audited. It's not my risk, it's your risk. There is a bill in Congress that's been there for a period of time, about 3 years, but now finally is on the floor and is planning to hopefully be passed, and that'll change within the year. For small businesses under 50, there is actually, you can utilize an HRA account for your employees to cover it and do it pre-taxed that way. So.
Over here to your left.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, could you talk more about how you're partnering with employers around the community and some of the experiences and feedback that you've had with, maybe dealing with a smaller company that, would have some flexibility to enlist your services for this?
Absolutely. There's been different companies in different industries that have found this particularly useful. The service industry, like restaurants, where they typically have a really hard time, not enough employees to make sense, to give people stuff, a lot of part-time help, but for them to say, oh, we'll do 50 a month or share it with our employees and do half, and suddenly you're giving them access to a doctor, and it's at a small fee for them, it's amazing. Additionally, for a lot of companies that are young, whether it's entrepreneurial, architecture firms, or other things, they have a bunch of young, healthy, active employees maybe, and they're paying for a gold-plated plan because they want to give them something good, but they're giving them a plan and still no access. So where I can come in and say, hey, instead of the gold plan, do something silver or bronze, pair me in and give somebody a much better care experience. I've got groups that I've partnered with that are 5 to 7 employees. I've got groups that I'm talking with that are up to 300 or 400 employees. And there's different benefits on the in-between. Working with some insurance brokers here locally to build kind of that wraparound plan to include me in.
Question here in the front.
Yes.
Well, I think the questions have kind of covered, or your answers have covered my questions, but let me just say, I think you're doing a great thing because our system, whatever that is, because it's not just the insurance companies, has gotten to the point where I think there are a lot of unsatisfied doctors, people who think like you. So congratulations on being able to break out of that.
Thank you.
The question I was going to ask was whether it's feasible to form a customized healthcare plan that integrates you into it, because most people pay for doctor visits, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
here with this plan, we're paying for doctor visits.
Yeah.
And some way to be able to pick and choose from an insurance plan to be able to integrate.
What I've done with a few friends and members is looking at the insurance plan options. And a lot of times if you look, let's say the difference between a gold plan, maybe it's a $3,500 deductible, and then you get all your copays and all this sort of stuff, and then the total out of pocket was $6,800. Another plan, the deductible was $6,000, not so much on the copays, but the total out of pocket was $7,000, $200 difference. The monthly deductible or premium charge difference was $160. So I said, if you have something bad happen, you're going to hit your total out of pocket. So don't worry about this mess in the middle because it's confusing. Transparent, simple fee, done, and then cover your risk. So helping people, we get so lost in all that stuff in the middle, the copay, what do I got to do here, what do I got to do there? Eliminate all that. Simplify.
Another question in the center.
Yeah.
Great concept. Are you able to measure patient outcomes? So long-term, as we look at different healthcare models, that we can use what you're developing to make good decisions?
Yes, so I'm starting to look at that, but a good example, so Q-Liance is a group that does this in Seattle. They've been doing it for 12 years. They took a year, and they have a lot of employees they cover. They're a large group. They took 4,000 employees versus 4,000, same insurance plan, but one group had the DPC doc, direct primary care doc like me. What they found at a year was that the group that had the DPC doc had 65% fewer ER visits, they had 66% fewer specialist visits, 88% fewer surgeries, 50% less costs on radiology. The only thing that increased is they went and saw their doctor twice as much, and that was at a known fixed cost. That led to total utility cost savings on the plan of 35%. When you give people access to their doctor to have a conversation, they don't ignore stuff. You prevent so many secondary problems, and then hopefully you get them converted to coming in and talking about sleeping, eating, exercise, stress, all that.
So you're still building your practice, obviously, but
Yes.
in direct primary care, like across the board, across the nation, who's using it? Like, what's the demographic that's accessing this?
Yeah, great question. I've honestly seen it across the board. One of the things the American Academy likes about it is that at the same time that I've got a waiter sitting in my waiting room, nobody's ever sitting in my waiting room because you get seen right away, but you also get a CEO. I mean, the access piece is attractive to everyone, but for people that don't have access to care, it's huge. And so kind of across the board, we're seeing millennials love it because they begin to understand the way that the pricing structure works and how attractive that is. So kind of across the board.
Over here to your left.
Yes.
So you're working on the physician side of things to get access for people faster and less expensive. And when there's tests that need to be done that you can't do in your office, is there any consideration with the other 6 or 7 people in the area to look at trying to build something up from the standpoint of a lab that they could all access, so that some of those tests that can be incredibly expensive, that don't seem like they should be to the layperson, that would actually be able to bring that cost down?
Yeah, I mean, I think that once we begin to look at some of the more fringe tests like that, we'll figure something out eventually. Right now, thyroid disease. Talked to a guy the other day. Every time he gets his TSA checked, he pays $60 and then his office visit. So $60 for the lab. That lab is $2 in my office. You know, it doesn't take long to sit down and go, hey, does this make sense for you? And as a group, then, we're also negotiating with different larger groups on, say, an echocardiogram, talking to a cardiology group and saying, hey, what could you do that for cash-wise? Urologist, we need to do a prostate biopsy. What can you do that for cash-wise? And we're a large enough group now that we can really start having some influence in those conversations. It's attractive to them to say, oh, you just cash today? Okay.
Question in the center.
Yes.
Got me.
Oh, there.
What would be your approach with people with disabilities? You know, that's a big concern when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah.
And I mean, this plan is pretty good, but you know, they are the main ones that really have many hospital visits, and you know, to provide knowledge and things that can eliminate those visits would be great. So, I mean, do you have like something in place? Are you helping people with disabilities? Do you have them coming to you? Or will you provide like information or education so that they can look at a different option?
Absolutely. You know, I think the biggest thing we can offer is time. You know, I've got time and I'm willing to take the time, because I have it, to figure out what's the right solution for you. So as soon as we hit a problem, then it's figure out, okay, what's the solution? What's that going to, and cost is obviously a part of that conversation. But then part of that solution is, okay, how do we prevent getting to this situation? You know, so depending on what that disability is there something we can be doing preventatively, somebody else that we can be partnering with to help so that we don't end up there? It's that lack of access that ends up with so many people down the road in the hospital.
All the way on your left.
You bet.
I'm just curious with my doctor, like the app that you use to interface with his office. I'm just curious if you have like, because those are probably modular, and there's probably a standard one out there that, or different ones that you can use. And I'm just curious if you've looked into that.
Yeah, great question. I know that Atlas, who I use for in terms of the communication and everything else, has an app functionality, and I just need to spend some time enabling it and working with it. Yeah, I mean, one of the great things is, I mean, the way that we interact right now. If you text me, not only does it come directly to me, but it goes directly into the chart. If you call, our conversation goes there. So all of that is housed and kept in a place so that we're able to communicate together. Absolutely.
Have you had any veterans who don't want to deal with the VA use this program? Yep.
You bet. You bet.
Is there anything different or unique with that, or it's the same kind of deal?
Same deal. Same deal for me. And hopefully a better deal for them.
My friend is a primary care doc at Truman downtown.
Yes.
And her life is hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's a shitty job.
Yeah. Terrible.
Can you talk a little bit more about why this model is better for the doctors?
Yeah. I mean, so where do I start? I get to do medicine the way I want to do, which is sit down and have a conversation. My best physician skill is listening. And so when you have time to do that, that changes the game. A typical family physician sees 4 to 6 people an hour. If you're doing that, you're looking at a sheet of paper, why are you here? I've already made a decision. Walk in the room, listening for 2 key indicators, move on. There is not time. And those folks that she's seen at Truman have problem lists that are 7, 10, 12 issues long with no time, no resources, and overwhelmed. And so, yeah, to be able to step out of that as a physician, do it how I want. Also, ultimate flexibility. My last job, I was there, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. or what have. I'll have long days. Maybe I'm taking phone calls at night, but I'm taking my kids to school every morning, picking them up from school a lot of days. I'm spending time throughout my day with flexibility and having that back. So I love what I do. I get to do it the way I want.
Final question. What can we as a community do to help you?
Number 1, choose health. Whether you choose me or not, we are not healthy. So please, choose health. Number 2, you can go to the website, www.healthstudiokc.com. Call me, text me, email me, set up a meet and greet, come by, stop by the office. I would love to see if we could be a good fit and if I could be of service to you. And finally, tell your friends and follow us, Facebook, Instagram, and all of that. I mean, most of my marketing has been word of mouth and experience. People come in, have a great experience. The next week I get 3 phone calls. I mean, we all know that's how it works. So thank you. Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
All right. Guys, we've got a couple announcements. First announcement is download the application, the 1 Million Cups app, so you guys can get the announcement notifications. Also, you can check out announcements up here, take pictures of whichever ones are important to you. And we also have David Hayburn with WeWork doing a live announcement. Come on out, David.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is David Hayburn, Community Manager with WeWork Corrigan Station. If you're not familiar with WeWork, we're a community-focused co-working space with a global network of over 100,000 members where we help creators create a life, not just a living. My wife and I recently moved back to Kansas City from Brooklyn to be a part of this community and to serve the entrepreneurial ecosystem that already exists here. You all are doing amazing work, and we're just grateful and humbled to be a part of it. WeWork is launching August 1st at Corrigan Station down in the Crossroads. It's right at the corner of, it's right at the Crossroads streetcar stop. We're giving tours every day, so if you're interested, go online at WeWork.com and you can book a tour. WeWork is also giving away $20 million through our international pitch competition, the Creator Awards. It's not just for WeWork members, it's open to anyone in the world. So if you're interested in having a slice of that $20 million, we encourage you to apply. We want a Kansas City business to take home as much of that $20 million as possible. So to further that along, we're hosting an event on May 10th to do pitch practice called KC Connected. It'll be in the newsletter, but if you're interested in being a part of that, come. We hope to see you there. Again, we're just grateful and humbled to be a part of this community. I'll be here. I'd love to talk to you more. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, man. Next is Mug Club. Raise your hand if you've been here 10 times or more. All right. Now, raise your hand if you have not, or put your hand down if you have already received a mug. Excuse me. Put your hand. You haven't received a mug? All right, right there in the center.
Tell us your name and why you come to 1 Million Cups.
My name is Aaron Eliashar, and one of the biggest reasons why I come to 1 Million Cups is being an aspiring entrepreneur and learning about how other people get their start in business and seeing like-minded individuals. I can take away facts of how could I build my business better, how could I help them, so that way it's a trade-off and we can have a partnership long-term. And my brother actually dragged me here a while back, lovingly dragged, I should say, and it's a lot of fun to be at 1 Million Cups, and I enjoy it. I enjoy every Wednesday.
Hey, man, thanks for coming. Last is our audience connection question. Raise your hand if you are in need of mobile app development. Nobody? Okay. Raise your hand if you do mobile app development for future reference. Steve Stava, this guy? Okay. Perfect. If you guys ever need mobile app development, get with these guys. All right. And next, we have Mr. Robert Westfall with BOT, Better Online Training. He's trying to bring the demise to boring, jewel-inducing, PowerPoint-based training. Give him a hand.
I didn't write that, but that sounded really good. My name is Robert Westfall. I'm the founder and CEO and lead training designer of Better Online Training, or as I like to call ourselves, BOT. Previous presenter did well getting you up and going, so I don't feel guilty asking some audience participation too. So I want everybody to raise their hand if you, whoa, we're flying. If you agree with this sentence. Training and education are crucial to the success of organizations. Seriously, who doesn't believe in that? Come on. All right, so then raise your hand only if you can say this: I've never had a poor training or education experience. And again, I expect to see no hands. So you can see there's a big disconnect already between everybody believing how important it is and how effective the end result usually is. The one-sentence description of what we do is we plan, design, deploy, manage online training and educational content. Now, there is an irony here that we're using...
Hello? Hello? Excuse me. Can you hear me?
This is my digital alter ego. Yeah, we can hear you.
Well, I overheard you talking and just felt like I needed to chime in. You do realize this is 1 million cups, not 1 million yawns, right? I mean, the guy in the corner, he's asleep already, drooling even. You're 45 seconds in and already lost the audience. I'm going to take over. You just go stand over there while I try and save this dumpster fire, okay?
I was about to explain the irony of PowerPoint.
Yeah. I've heard it all before. Let me lay out for everyone how poor training and education content comes into existence. Nice job dressing up for the occasion, by the way. Cue the music. Okay, as my three-dimensional friend was alluding to, the problem starts with the fact that a lot of people don't seem to appreciate that there is a real discipline behind creating education and training content. It requires an understanding of human cognition, of human motivation, of learning methodologies and theories. Not only does it take special knowledge and experience, it also takes a lot of different skills to actually create the education and training content. Ignoring this reality is what causes a lot of useless content to come into the world. Now, on the education side, especially in higher ed and adult training programs, the issue isn't a lack of appreciation for these special skills. Rather, it's often that resources of time and money are tight, and because of that, instructors and professors are often stuck using tools not meant for the job, or so simplistic they create nothing engaging for the learner. The end result is the same old text on screen, PDFs, and if you're lucky, maybe some voiceover content. On the business side, however, there is a vicious cycle I like to call a vicious cycle. It goes something like this. A manager is told that employees need new training on something, be it a compliance issue, a new process or policy, maybe a new product offering, what have you. She is already juggling multiple other tasks and time is tight, and she doesn't really have the tools or background to create quality training. But she does have that PowerPoint or Keynote app on her desktop. So she grabs a checklist of topics, spends a little time creating some bullet points and maybe adding some cute clip art like this guy. Then she calls everyone into a room and they sit and watch as she or some other team member reads the words on the screen and clicks merrily along. All the while, the staff is checking emails or catching some Z's. Presentation ends and the employees haven't really learned anything. They don't change their behavior, they don't adopt a new process, or their performance doesn't improve. Management sees no change in behavior or performance, declares that training is a waste of time and money, and decides to scrap training in the future. A few months later, a new process or tool needs to be taught, and management, having selective memory, calls the manager, tells her they need some training, and on and on and on. All this results in content that barely fits the word training and certainly isn't engaging or effective. So instead of creating something like this, they get this. Or instead of this, they get that. With bot, without bot. Are you kidding me? I swear if I ever see this guy or one of his relatives on another computer screen, I am going to...
Whoa, okay, I'm gonna take back over. What my temperamental friend got the point across though, that there is a problem between creating education content that's good and bad. I'll take the last couple minutes just to fly through the who and how of bot. By the way, ladies, he's single, so if you look past the immature behavior, all right? So 4 target markets, we'll pick up this in the Q&A, but business, education, experts, and public. Experts would be individuals looking to create their own online training sites and they need help designing the content and managing the experience. Public, that would be government agencies, local governments, things like that. We are not a do-it-yourself tool, okay? This is the one takeaway. If there's anything you can take away from this besides the sexy beast on screen, it's that we are not an app. We're not, pay $20 a month and go figure out how to do it. We've already established through the video that that doesn't lead to good quality training. We offer these 4 services. There's digital conversion, custom instructional design, our consulting services we call MAPS, and learning portals. I'll describe each real quick. Digital conversion would be pretty self-explanatory. We don't use clever words here. If you already have existing content, it's probably in a PDF, PowerPoint, or God forbid you're still delivering it in things like these, that is not engaging, it's not effective, sloppy, boring. We can come in and help you create better content. Take what works that you already have, add what we need to add, and then we'll deploy it digitally so that you can update it and manage it as you go along. Next service goes into what in the video described all those skills. Using those skills, we can create things like simulations, scenarios, mobile learning, and so on.
This is where real engagement comes. This is all the different types of questions we cover in our consulting phase. The goal is to try to create a learning culture in organizations. It's not just the one and done, seat of the pants kind of effort. That's where people get into trouble. We want to create learning cultures within organizations so that you can develop people over time. Now, the last thing is, where does all that content go? It goes into our learning management systems we call learning portals. We design, build, and manage them, okay? This is another difference between us and a lot of other competitors. They force you to basically learn how to use it yourself. We manage it for you. And what I mean by fully managed is all these different things that you may need to do throughout the day, you just send us a simple request or use our Dropbox and we do it for you. And then revenue, you betcha. We aren't a charity. Well, some days I think we are, but these first three services would be time for money, professional services, project-based. Learning portals, that's our recurring revenue, high return of investment. And then that would be a good sign for me to stop talking. Okay, so thank you for listening, and if I haven't answered any questions, here we go.
All right. We will start with a few questions from our expert panel.
Yeah, so when you were outlining the problem, you mentioned that ineffective training leads to ineffective adoption of policies and things like that within companies. Do you have any evidence that your trainings are more effective?
I have my years of experience. I was an instructional designer for 4 years, and my job was to basically take bad training and make it better. And I was doing that in the higher education setting. So I can tell you that the work that I did personally did the job. And so the work that anybody that does on my behalf will do the job too.
You kind of mentioned in your presentation pardon me, at least I didn't cough on the mic, I guess, I'm getting good. The structure of your business on the services versus platform type approach. Can you kind of give us an idea where you're at currently with that balance and where you'd like it to be?
Well, trying to run through it really quick. The reality is that between those three services and the platform, any individual client may not need all four. Some clients already have their own platform. There are other LMSs out there, but they need help with the education and training creation. Ideally, we want to be able to offer the whole turnkey so that, especially on smaller companies where they don't have the resources in-house or they just don't want to. I mean, the reality is that like any other professional services firm, people will hire us because they either don't have the time, the money, or they just don't want to do it. And so as far as the balance goes, to be honest with me, we just launched a couple months ago, so we're still in signing up contract phase. So right now my balance is, we can get it up here. But over time, from the conversations I've already been having, I'm seeing that we're going to get a lot of people wanting to do the learning portals too.
And then one more question around your staffing model. I assume freelance to get expertise. What's that look like for a balance for you?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I created this to be a substantial company in town someday. So right now, the reality is that I use people on an as-needed basis, and we'll get to that in a minute when we do the last question thing. But I do rely on freelancers, independent contractors on an as-needed basis, and I can tell you right now I have 4 different potential contracts in the next 2 weeks, and if that's the case, I'm going to need to scale up really quick. So that model works because I already have a pretty good stable of people. But my goal is to make this a substantial company in town, so I want to hire people here. I know that that means I might not be as cost effective on my end, but I'd be willing to forego some profit to become an employer. So that's what I will do.
Can you tell me a little bit more about who, you've only been up for a couple of months, you just said, so who are your initial contracts coming from? Who was really taking to this?
Well, ironically, because PowerPoint presentations suck, there was a slide that I skipped right through because the pointer was fast. But in the business sector, for instance, HR managers, training and development managers, ironically, consultants is becoming a big thing really quick, and I didn't think about it at first, but I was a management consultant, so I should have known this. But if you're a consultant and your job is to go into another company to help create a change of some kind, part of your job will be to train those employees on that change. And if you are a consultant with bad training in education content, those client employees aren't going to adopt the change. You as the consultant are going to get blamed. So consultants have good training in education content. And 3 out of 4 contracts that we're about to sign, hopefully, are consultants. But there is a whole plethora of in-house needs because there's internal training, but there's also the world of customer training.
We're in talks with a company in New England that has a SaaS app that wants to redo their entire customer onboarding. Because they're smart and realize that if you do a better job training on the front end, you can alleviate a lot of the customer service questions and complaints on the back end. So we're helping with that.
All right. We're going to open it up to audience questions. Raise your hand if you have one. Got one here in the front.
I got his phone number, by the way, so whoever.
Hi, very entertaining presentation. Thank you. Let's talk about content ownership. If somebody creates this content with you, this training, and they leave your service, do they lose all of everything they've done?
No, there's a couple ways the contracts, I mean, this is a professional service, so every engagement's a contract. Again, this is not a you go put your credit card in and just start freewheeling it. So a contract can be negotiated. Like on one of these consultants, the contract will stipulate that they can use this content, they own the content for these uses, okay? They can use it to train and educate their customers. They can't go take our logo, their logo off, put another logo on and sell it to a third party. Now, if somebody wants that, we'll negotiate that. I mean, it'll cost a lot more because basically we're giving up our work forever. But they do own the work for the purpose that we agree on.
You mentioned as one of your potential customers being schools. Can you talk about implementing this in the classroom?
Yeah, and I'm glad the gentleman from Lean Lab is here. I've been to some of your events, and I really like him. And he can attest to this, that the education market is a whole different animal than the business market. But as a former instructional designer on the education side, I know that just like in the video, professors and instructors are usually left to their own devices on how to create the content. You do have book publishers who are getting into the market, but they still want to keep their textbooks because that's where they make their money. So there's kind of this parallel universe on how do you create the content that the student wants, and at the same time, you still need to use the textbooks. Hopefully we'll get away from that. But in terms of actually getting market in there, that's going to take some work. That, as he can attest, that involves a lot of questions and meetings and bureaucracies. So we're focusing on the business market first, but I wanted to show the potential for all the other places we can go.
So you've been in business for just a few months. What lessons have you learned I'm here in the center.
Oh.
Sorry.
Why don't you do like that?
Have you learned any lessons the hard way yet?
Well, I've learned that I've learned that my skill set is I don't like the cold calling and the cold emailing. I know it's a reality, especially in a type of business like this. I know my limitations, and I'll be honest with you. You know, the 10-year ago version of me wouldn't even be here because he would have thought, oh, I could do it all myself. And I'm like, no, I really can't. So the amount of balls that need to be juggled, that's one thing I'm learning quickly. The lead time it takes to actually get some of these contracts, I mean, again, the point is we're not a do-it-yourself, self-service app. But, we're talking, 2, 3, 4 months before, between meeting, proposal, and so cash flow becomes an issue. So those are things. But also just the need to have a good network of people that I can call on, because my first hires, full-time hires, are going to be in the business development because I need to get that off my plate.
Another question up front.
Oh, sure. So I was also wondering how, it seems I want to know how you came about this problem and how you wanted to build this business to solve it.
Honestly, because I'm not going to name the place I worked at, but when I was hired as an instructional designer and I saw what they were doing, I was like, this is pathetic. I mean, really, it was like the Wikipedia thing. It was just bad. And my job was to come in and fix it. And I saw how dysfunctional it was. I'm like, this can't be dysfunctional everywhere, is it? And then I started talking to people, and then I went back and started thinking about my business life. How many people have those, what I would call fake enthusiasm trainings, like, yay! It's like, no, it's not yay. You're getting paid $10 an hour. Come on, why don't you be honest with your people and train them properly? Don't be demeaning. So I've had a life experience of how this works. But I will also tell you that learning and training is only part of an overall corporate culture. Now, I can do a whole TED talk on that, but the reality is that if you don't have a company culture that cares about cultivating your people, you're not going to hire us. And we'll have to go to one of the other companies that does.
Can you talk a little bit about the life cycle of, say, I hired you today to do training? What are the steps? How long does it typically take?
Well, we don't do we are the content creators. So it's basically on a case-by-case basis. If you're a standard company, you may have certain things that are, regulations by law that you have to do yearly. So there are certain external factors, but if you have, I mean, I know you have your KC crew, say you wanted to start doing some communication, interpersonal skills. We would come to you, we would sit, we'd have a few meetings to kind of list some objectives, some timelines. You know, it could take maybe a month or two to put the content together. Usually there's a subject matter expert. See, I'm not an expert in employee motivation, and neither are you, so we need to find one. You might already have somebody in-house that you want to be that subject matter expert. If not, we will go find one. And then we all three, as a team, work together, build the content, then we deploy it, and then it becomes just a case-by-case basis on how long you need it.
Question to your left.
So as I saw the different industries or different markets that you're focused on and kind of your financial services model and platform approach, I'm curious if you've seen the opportunity to focus on a niche where the training materials might be more reusable for you, but customized for the customer.
You know, there is a whole world out there of pre-made content, all right? There's lynda.com, which is now LinkedIn Learning. There's YouTube, for God's sakes. I mean, you can go to YouTube and, you know, you type into Google, I need to learn how to do this, and then you find a YouTube video, and then 8 minutes in, you realize the guy has no clue what he's talking about, and you've burned 8 minutes. Now you can go do it again. So there is a lot of pre-made content out there. I don't really want to get into that market. Part of our consulting services will help you pick stuff that already may exist, keep your costs down on the custom side, but then there's still always things that are unique to your business and to your need. So you can put the custom with what I'd call generic and put them together. So I don't want to compete in that market, let that market be what it is. I think there's enough market in the custom world and also on the deployment world.
Question over here to your right.
I'm curious why you don't do the DIY for your services, because it seems from a revenue standpoint, the overhead is less, and then you could also do more plug-and-play features.
Because the result is people who don't know what they're doing use the do-it-yourself model and create bad training. I mean, that is basically the whole point of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Everybody has PowerPoint on their computer. You know, you can go and do it. There are companies out there that offer a drag and drop, you know, create blocks and all that. But again, if you don't have people in-house with the education and training experience to create good content, those do-it-yourself tools are what creates all this bad training. So no, my goal is to rid that out of the world. So can't.
Question in the center.
Now, obviously, there are going to be some things that you don't know. Let's say I run a microbiology
One thing,
lab.
I got most of them.
Okay, but let's say I run a microbiology lab and I need to train my new hires on testing protein-protein interactions. What are your interactions with the company to learn these things? That way you can actually teach everyone else. Or teach them to
No,
teach
well,
everyone
it
else.
goes back to like what I was saying about the subject matter expert. I don't no, I know this stuff, you know that stuff. It involves working together. See, like on the expert world, there are people who are just brilliant who couldn't teach you how to bag groceries, okay? But they have all that knowledge. My people and me, we have the ability to pull that knowledge and put it into an actual learning form. So it would be, if you were the expert in that situation, you and I or my team would have many meetings, and that would be part of our contract. Again, that's why this is not a get it done in a day thing, all right? These are weeks and months type projects because you really do want to do it right the first time, so on the back end, you're not burning money. Don't forget, you know, if you do bad training on the front end and you didn't spend any money, your employees or customers wasted time on the back end where they could be working. So they didn't learn anything new, plus they weren't doing their jobs. So start weighing those costs.
So do you and your team end up learning microbiology through this whole process?
We learn what he wants his people to learn. And then we put it in a way that his people will learn. But no, I mean, I'm not going to get a lab coat and start going, hey, I can do some no.
All right, question right here.
Just a clarification, I think I heard you say that you have a learning management system and the content would live there. So
If
they
they
would have
want,
to
yeah.
they would have to sign into your learning management system.
Just
correct?
like if you use ADP or some payroll system for your company, in the morning your employee logs in and clocks in, they would log in. It's a secured site that we host and manage, and only the people that you want access to. Not to mention the fact that we can create learning paths. So if you have different departments and people one portal, they can also get different training. So you're basically creating your own little university, but we're doing it for you.
Right, so a company that already has a learning management system, do you get pushback from them or do you expect to get some pushback?
No, because like I was saying before, we can just give you the content in a package too. You know, most learning management systems like Blackboard or Canvas, things like that, our content is created in a zip folder. You take it and you can do whatever you want with it. So either way.
Okay, can I ask
Another question in the center. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Another question in the center.
The little bit you showed us looked like gamification is a big part of your
Game
platform.
theory mostly, yeah.
Are you seeing any differences between the generations on how they embrace that?
Well, okay, that, game theory and gamification are a little bit different. Game theory is all about strategic thinking and how one action can create another reaction. Gamification is when you get points and stickers and stuff. And, depending on the case, maybe, but again, I'm kind of trying to fight the demeaning training that's out there. And I think a lot of, especially, we're talking on the corporate world, you gotta be at least 16 to work, so we're talking pretty much adult age already. A lot of that stuff to me is kind of childish, okay? Now, we'll do it if a client really wants to, but I'll fight them on it. I started this company because I didn't want to do stuff I didn't want to do. But to me, a lot of that stuff is just kind of childish. Now, there are ways to, do certain gamification more in a real world, give them a raise, but that's not our job. So, but, we can work on it on a case-by-case basis.
Question in the center.
So they have a learning management system through your portal. Will the employee and the trainer have access to see what, like, a pre and post assessment type stuff to assess your
on that one
efficacy?
slide that I had to burn through because my virtual guy talked too much. They're tracking reports. A big part of training and education that's different from presentations is knowing what the baseline was. What did your people know here, and what do they know now? Okay, so yeah, a big part, and it's not necessarily just of the learning management system, but even in the content people take from us, you can put assessment, pre and post assessments, and as far as access, again, if you are the HR manager of a company and you want tracking reports to see who's been doing what, you can get those. If you want to have certain access to trainers who can then converse with the learners, you can do that too.
Question back here.
Oh, Neil.
Hey, Robert. I'm a friend of Robert's.
Good people, I can tell you.
For a long time. But great presentation. I like the originality, which I think you were trying to get across the idea that this can be something new and different. Maybe?
Better, okay? Let me make it clear.
Better.
I named my company Better for a reason. You have not heard me use the word Uber once, all right? I am not here to say we're doing something revolutionary. Better is often good enough for a lot of organizations. Anything bigger, they get freaked out.
Well, obviously you're going to have to do some missionary selling to, find customers for this.
Hmm?
What's your marketing plan? How are you going to acquire customers?
Well, it's a direct sales model, really. Is my freelance guy with the social media, is he here? No, okay. No, we always ask social media questions. No, the social media and stuff like that is kind of a back thing right now. Right now it's cold calls, cold emails, meetings, face-to-face, having dialogues, having conversations. Money is a resource. Don't want to burn it too fast. So, we have a decent website. We have some supporting materials, but really it's the face-to-face, phone-to-phone stuff in the beginning.
Question up front.
Man, you got a lot of questions.
So can you just give a broad overview of what you think makes a good training, or like what are the techniques you think that you use that other people don't?
There's a lot of different tactics and techniques, but it's overall, it's a philosophy. It's, don't be demeaning, all right? Treat your audience with respect. Actually know what they know before you start. Because again, the difference between a presentation and actual training is there's a baseline and then there is a post. And if you don't know what these are, you're no good. Engagement now. Animations like in the little presentation, that's not engagement. Engagement is when they have to actually make a choice, see something, and see the end result. Okay, I didn't really touch on where I see the future, but virtual reality is new and hot and big and all that, but it's really hard to program. And right now, that's why you see some of these Samsung games and stuff like that. But there will come a time where for any situation, not just some kind of hard science, but if you want to create communication skills, you can be in a virtual world and have scenarios. It's what's role playing now. Everybody thinks role playing is kind of cheesy. Well, you can do it digitally. It's a little less embarrassing when it's just you in the goggles versus a lot of other people. So engagement, but again, the definition of engagement is different than entertainment. Okay, but there is also a little persuasion in education. Don't kid yourself. You have to persuade the people, especially in a company, that it's worth their time to do the training. Okay, so if you don't treat them with that respect and actually show them a real benefit, you're not going to get any learning from them.
Final question, what can we as a community do to help you?
I've been to these enough. I know that question, and I'm not going to waste it, so here we go. All right. I want everybody to get their phone out if you haven't. Seriously, I want you to take notes or take a picture of this screen. I want to feel like a rock star doing a ballad, all right? Share us with 3 people in your network. I didn't say endorse us. I didn't say we're great. 3 people in your network who you think might have an interest, whether they work in HR, education, what have you. Just send them a link to the website, or if they're a LinkedIn or Twitter. I will tell you, Twitter, we just started this. There's like 5 tweets. I got like 3 followers. They're my family. Okay, so it's nothing major there. Now, secondly, for the love of God, please talk to me. I want conversations. Whether you want to maybe work with us, have us work for you, want to learn more, use that link there, bo.training/meet. We'll take you to my calendar app. And you can just click on one of these, and whatever free time I have, if it works for you, you take it, and we'll meet, okay? And then last, teach me, join me, give me money. I like to create an advisory board. Again, this is kind of a professional services / technology firm, so people that have an experience in growing and managing such things as this would be helpful to me. Again, I mentioned earlier the staffing. I could quickly need some educational technologists, instructional designers, so if you know anybody who does that on like a freelance, independent contractor basis. Again, I'm not really looking to hire full-time people yet, but that could change within 6 months. And then sugar daddy or mama, I'm not above taking money from people, so if you want to just give me the money. But those are what you can do.
Awesome, Robert, thank you so much. All right, thank you all very much for coming in out of the rain and joining us. While you have your phones out, be sure to go to 1millioncups.com, scroll down to where it says Go Mobile, and download the app so you can provide feedback to these presenters. We will see you next week for presentations from Sparks MP and Low Tech. Have a great week, guys.